Hello folks, welcome to session number 8 of my Blender training. In the last class we've seen how to UV unwrap objects, the basics in part 1, and then taking a look at the flower vase and the leaves in the part 2. Okay, so in today's session we'll just revisit some of the mesh modeling workflow tools. Okay, things like if you model an object as a single mesh, okay, how do you go about separating the parts of the mesh? Okay, and we'll also take a look at creating symmetrical models using the mirror modifier, okay, the basics. And also we'll take a look at loading reference images, okay, so that you can get started modeling. Okay, mind you, I'll just be covering loading the image planes, okay, not the actual modeling of this car. All right, so let's get started. Yeah, um, so basically the first part is uh, to create a mesh with multiple components. Okay, so let's start with this cube. Now I want to move the lamp and the camera to another layer. Okay, so I shift select these two, and okay, use the move to layer operator. Okay, you'll see that we have 20 layers. Okay, to access layer number 5, just press the 5 key and your objects go to the layer number 5. Okay, so 1 through 0 keys for the first 10 layers, and then you can type alt 1, alt 2, alt 3 through alt 0 to switch to layers 11 to 20. Okay, so now I've moved the camera and the lamp to layer number 20. Okay, you'll notice that there are objects in layer number 20. Okay, that's a quick tip. So let's select the cube, and I want to move the cube 1 unit in the z-axis. So I'll click on the handle for the z direction. Okay, and as I move the handle, I press 1 and let go of the mouse. There you go. So that's the first part, and I want the center of the object, okay, to be at the base, okay, or at the world origin, okay, where the 3D cursor is. Okay, um, I'll make sure my 3D cursor is at the origin. Okay, it's at the origin. If not, just reset all to default values. Okay, after that I'll click on origin and move the origin to the 3D cursor. There you go. Okay, that's the first part. Now let me name this object. I'll name this object as okay, house. Okay, all right, now let's switch to the edit mode. Okay, and deselect everything. Okay, and border select the top vertices. Okay, if you border select everything, right, if you border select everything and turn the view, you'll notice this vertex is not selected. That's because backface culling is on. Okay, if I uncheck this, now you'll notice I can also see the vertices that are behind the faces. So now if I do a border select, okay, I select everything. Okay, that's another quick tip for you. Okay, let's deselect everything and border select. The hotkey is B. Okay, now I want to move the 3D cursor to the center of this selection. Right, to do that, mesh, snap, cursor to selected. Okay, the hotkey to invoke the snap menu, okay, the default hotkey is Shift S. Okay, Shift S will give you these options. All right, now I want to add another mesh. Okay, I'll add a cone. Okay, so basically we are in the edit mode of this cube object. Inside the edit mode I have added another mesh. Okay, Let's switch to the wireframe. Okay, and move this cone, okay, again by 1 unit in the Z direction. So click on this handle and press 1. Okay, it rests on the top face of this cube. Okay, and let me switch the pivot mode to 3D cursor and switch to the scale, and oops, okay, switch to the scale and just scale it. I'll scale it these directions. Okay, to uniformly scale in all directions, let me undo. Let me just Control Z. To scale on a particular axis, you just click on that particular handle, right? But if you want to uniformly scale in all directions, let me press the space key first to get the search menu. View selected. Okay, to uniformly scale in all directions, move the mouse on top of this white circle, and then you can uniformly scale. Okay. Alright, so I have something like this, and let me switch back to the object mode. So you'll notice that this cube and this cone is a single object. Okay, now what if I want to separate the cone and separate the cube, right? So let's see how to do that. Let's deselect everything. Okay, now Blender has this feature in the mesh edit context. It's called selecting linked vertices. Okay, so basically move the mouse on top of one of the vertex, okay, and space to get the operator search menu and type linked. Okay, so there is something called select linked vertices. The hotkey is L. Okay, let me escape and move the mouse on the vertex and press L. So you'll notice okay, whichever vertices are connected together, okay, as a full object. So here the vertices of the cone, right, they are not connected to the vertices of this cube. So when I press L, okay, all the vertices that are part of the cone are selected. Okay, I can press Shift L to deselect. Okay, L and Shift L. Similarly, move the mouse L. If I press L on this vertex, it will select both, and Shift L to deselect. Okay, so basically I can separate out the cone, okay, using two ways. Okay, first is to select everything, okay, and then space key to get the operator search menu. And so there is an operator called separate. The hotkey is P. Okay, so it gives you three options: separate by selection, separate by material, and separate by loose parts. In this case, we will not be using this second option, but we'll use the first and the third option. Since all the vertices of our mesh are selected, let's uh, click by loose parts. Okay, you'll notice if I go back to the object mode, I now have two objects. Okay, because in our mesh we had two separate mesh objects. Okay, so it basically split them apart. Okay, let's undo this. Control Z. Okay, again I'm back to my initial mesh. Select everything. Okay, and P, separate by loose parts. Okay, the other way is you manually choose the part you want to separate. So I linked selected this one by pressing the L key and press P, and now separate just the selection. Okay, there you go. Get out of the edit mode, and I have two objects. Okay, now you'll notice the center of this cube is over here. Okay, so R. Oh, let's switch to the bounding box. You'll notice that depending upon the pivot point in the 3D viewport, the manipulator moves. So if my pivot point is bounding box center, okay, it's over here. If I switch the pivot point to the 3D cursor, you'll notice the manipulator has moved over there. Okay, so keep that in mind. um, Bounding box center is basically if I select multiple objects, right? Okay. Oh, that's weird. Don't worry about it. I'll talk about these in a separate example. Sorry about that. But now I want the origin of this cone to be at the base of the cone. Okay, so let's see how to do that. Switch to the edit mode for the cone. Deselect everything by pressing the A key, and now let me hold down the control key and left mouse click and drag to do a lasso select. Okay, with these vertices of the base of the cone selected, I'll say shift S to get the snap menu and move the cursor to selected. Okay, and get back to the object mode and move the origin of this cone to the location of the cursor. So now you'll see the location of the origin has changed. Okay, perfect. So we now have two objects. Okay, I can let's switch to the solid mode. You can turn on okay, this is the house dot base and this is house dot roof. Yeah, and I can display the name, select display the name, turn off the handle. Okay, there you go. Now the next thing is parenting. So if I move the base, right, the roof should also move. Okay, to do that, select the child. Now the roof becomes the child of this base, right? Because when I move the base, the roof should move. So I select the child, go to the relations panel in the object properties and choose the parent. Now my parent is house dot base. So now you'll notice Blender displays a relationship line. Okay, so this line is only displayed if in the view 3D properties okay, relationship lines is selected. See that? Okay, also one more thing, right now Blender is only displaying the origin of the selected object. So the cone is selected, so it's only displaying I mean the roof. Okay, the roof's origin is being displayed. The origin of the house dot base is not being displayed because this is checked off. So if I check this on, I now see the origin for all the objects in the scene. Okay, that's pretty useful. All right, and yeah, now if you move the cube, right, so select the base, press the G key and shift Z to constrain in the X and Y plane. You'll notice the roof also moves. Okay, so that's the quick introduction to separating meshes. Okay, um, let me quickly create one more. Okay, I'll move this. Oops, I'll move this. Now I'll show you the other way around. Say let's add a cube and move it in the z-axis. Okay, so and move the origin to 3D cursor, right, and let's create a cone. Let's create a cone. Okay, and same thing, click and press 1. Okay, and move this, oops, sorry, and switch the origin to the 3D cursor and then move this up. Okay, now I have two separate objects, right? I want to combine these two separate objects. Okay, both of these are mesh objects. Okay, because they have edges and faces and vertices. To So to combine or join two meshes, you select both the meshes and space key. Okay, we have this join operator, hotkey is Control J, and there you go. So now you have a single mesh. So if you go into the edit mode, you have a single mesh. Okay, so same thing, linked vertices, deselecting linked vertices, and so on and so forth. And you can select all of it, press the T key, and separate by loose parts to get back individual objects. Okay, so I just did undo. Alright, so that's the first part. Let me save this. Session 8. Okay, now let's move on to the next part of this tutorial, which is symmetric modeling. Right, so select inverse and object, move to layer, right, and view selected. Okay, now sometimes when you model, right, you want to just create one side of the model and the other side of the model should automatically be reflected. Okay, so that's called mirrored modeling or symmetric modeling. So how do we do symmetric modeling in Blender? Okay, so that's done using the mirror modifiers. Okay, so let's see the process for the same. So I have this cube, yeah, so I'll be using this cube as a base. Okay, and then create something like a frame. Okay, so let me move this cube on the x-axis. Okay, and switch to the modifiers panel and add a mirror modifier. You'll notice that by default the mirror modifier should mirror the object on the x-axis, but you won't see anything mirrored on the x-axis. That's because by default the mirroring happens about the object origin. Okay, so the mirror is on top of this object itself. Okay, if you want to see that, let's go to the edit mode. Okay, and then if I move the vertices, you'll notice the object center is here. Okay, the mirror is on the other side of it. Okay, so that's the default. Okay, let me undo. Okay, the other way of choosing a mirror origin, okay, is or the mirror object is to add a empty object. Okay, and for the mirror modifier, okay, specify the mirror object. So now the mirroring happens about this null object. Okay, empty objects are null objects in Blender. Okay, they're used for things like these. Okay, they have many other uses, but for now we are using it for mirror modeling. Okay, so now I have this object which is being mirrored about this mirror object. Okay, now I can go ahead, okay, and change the form of this mirror object and everything gets updated. Okay, so let's switch to the top view. Again, to get this particular panel here, 3D views panel, you need to go to user preferences, add-ons, 3D view, and enable the 3D navigation, you know, add-on. Okay, so let's switch to the top view and ortho view. Okay, select everything B and move it on the y-axis, G and Y. Oops. Remember, when I box select, since this is toggled on, the vertices that are below, okay, that are away from the view are not selected. So I need to make sure I'm in the wireframe mode. border select everything, go to the top view, and let me move this on the negative y-axis. Okay, so now we have this part of the mesh mirrored on the x-axis. What if I want this part of the mesh mirrored on the y-axis? Okay, it's very simple. Make a copy of this. Okay, make a copy of this thing, and now switch the mirroring to y. Now see what happens in the viewport when I do that. Okay, so now this particular okay mesh is being mirrored on the y-axis. Okay, and the mirror object is still the empty. Okay, let's go back to the object mode, and if I move this mirror object, you'll notice okay, it's updating automatically. Okay, cool. So now let's switch back to the edit mode, deselect everything by pressing the A key, and border select these vertices. Okay, now let me move these vertices on the y-axis. Okay, let me move this on the y-axis. Okay, you'll notice that okay, they are intersecting each other. Okay, now you don't want that in this case. Okay, for that to happen, you need to enable clipping. Okay, so enable clipping in the y-axis. So now if I move these vertices, they are clipped. Okay, they will not intersect each other. Okay, similarly, if I want to have clipping in the x-axis, I need to check this. Okay, all right, so let's quickly model something. Okay, I'm basically selecting these vertices, top view, and move this a little. Okay, and deselect. Okay, select these, right, and let me duplicate these vertices. Okay, basically this face. So for duplicating is shift D. Okay, so what you get is uh, a, a new face. Okay, a new face that you can move along. Okay, so let me undo and just move it a little. I'll show you a few more tricks during this modeling workflow. Okay, so I have this face, and let me extrude it now. Okay, now you'll notice that when I press the E key, okay, E key extrudes, the extrusion is happening along the face normal. Okay, a normal is perpendicular to the face. Okay, so it's going perpendicularly, so I'll just click it here. Okay, now I want these vertices. Okay, I want this particular face to be aligned. Okay, perpendicularly. Okay, like something like this. Okay, on the x-axis. Okay, one way of doing this is I have to manually move the vertices. Okay, and align them like this. Okay, um, something like this. Okay, so this is one way of doing it, but there's another way which is like so. So select all the faces. Okay, switch the pivot point to 3D cursor. Okay, and switch to the scale mode, and now if you click on the X handle for the scale, okay, and then press 0, okay, they are snapped, okay, on the x-axis. So this is another way of okay, snapping these, okay, perfectly. You can do this using the hotkey as well. Okay, but you have to be in the cursor pivot mode. Okay, like this, 3D cursor pivot mode, then S to scale. Then you want to constrain on the x-axis, so press X and then press 0. There you go. Okay, and since we have enabled clipping, these vertices, if you move, they are on the plane. Okay, so I can align them like this. Cool. So Okay, you have something like so. Okay, now let's take a look at some more mesh tools quickly. So 5 Z key. Again, I'm going a little quickly because in the previous lessons I've covered all the hotkeys and stuff. Okay, now I have this mesh. I want to add a like a cut over here. Okay, so to do that I use the knife tool. So the knife tool is enabled by pressing the K key. Okay, press the K key on the keyboard and hold it, and then move the mouse near this vertex and click and drag. Okay, so you'll notice Blender has added a loop over here. Okay, and then also added the triangles to properly bisect the faces. Okay, there you go. Now in the previous lesson we have seen how to combine two triangular faces into a polygon, right? I mean a four-sided face. So it's select the triangles and uh, okay, it tries to quads. The hotkey is Alt J. Okay, so select. You can also access it from here. Faces tries to quads. So we have a proper loop. See this? Okay. Now you may want to align these vertices. Okay. Now you notice that this is not like aligned with the x-axis. So to do that, switch to the vertex mode. Okay. Select these two vertices. Enable snap. Snap to vertex. Go to the top view and let's enable the manipulator and switch to the bounding box center. Okay, now okay, so basically as you move these two vertices, again remember I selected these two vertices. As I move these two vertices, move the mouse to the vertex that you want it to snap. Okay, and boom, this particular edge loop, okay, is perfectly aligned. Okay, so let me show you once again. Okay, say assume my edge is over here. I want this edge to be perfectly aligned with this particular vertex. So go to the snap and check this and snap to vertex and make sure the pivot point is bounding box center. Then click on the y-axis handle, okay, and move it down. And as you move down, point it to the vertex, and there you go. Okay, similarly I can press L to select these linked vertices and use the K key, okay, and click. Okay, now I can just select all these faces, okay, and run this tries to quads. It will fix itself. Great. Similarly, select these vertices, top view, and snap. Okay, snap. There you go. Okay, yeah, I mean now we can so let's add some loops over here. Okay, space, you select it, right? Control R to add loops and scroll the mouse wheel. All right, there you go. And I want to add a loop, horizontal loop, so Control R, click and drag. Okay, and switch to the face select mode and select these faces. Oops, the alternate faces. Sorry. I'm doing this video in a little hurry today. Okay, with this selected, I want to delete them. So mesh and delete faces. Okay, there you go. Now I need to fill in the holes here. So switch to the edge select mode. Okay, and oh sorry, the vertex select mode. Okay, F F key between two selected vertices builds an edge. Okay, so let me quickly build these edges. Turn off the manipulator. F F F and finally over here. Okay, now it's time to build the faces. Switch to the edge select mode. Okay, F. Again, this is just a quick exercise to learn more of these tools in action. Okay, um, so okay, so I have something like this. Now I'll do something. I'll select these faces over here and duplicate them. Okay, I'll duplicate these guys. So duplicate its mesh and add duplicate. Okay, I'll press escape to cancel. Okay, now I want to scale them inwards. Okay, now if I press S right, okay, the scaling doesn't happen as I want. Okay, also make sure snap is turned off. Basically I want these objects to scale around their individual origins. Okay, so let's switch to individual origins and press S. So now you'll notice, okay, the scaling happening something like this. Okay, so yeah, I'll just use this. Okay, that's cool. And okay, remember separate objects from the previous exercise, so I'll separate these out. Okay, so press the P key and separate by selection. So basically now I have two objects. Okay, one is this and this. Now this particular object, right, has been separated from this mesh, and this mesh had the mirror modifiers, so this also gets the mirror modifiers, okay, for free. So now I can work on this. Okay, switch to the edge mode. Okay, F, oops. F, okay, so alt right click to select these loops and alt shift right click to multiple select these loops. Okay, and go to the top view, ortho, and just move it G and X. Okay, there you go. Okay, and I can select all of these, top view, ortho, and okay, again let's make a cut. So K key, okay, basically the knife tool. So hold down K and left click, drag. Okay, I have this cut. Now the cut operator has some properties. Okay, the default is the exact cut. Okay, and you can also switch it to midpoints. Okay, and the cut has happened at the midpoints. Okay, I can move them, maybe place them here. Okay, or maybe I'll place them here. Okay, now I can add loops. Okay, I'll add let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 loops. Okay, 5 loops here as well, and 5 loops here as well. Okay, so we're almost done. Okay, now you can go ahead and fill in these faces. Okay, F, let me turn off the manipulator. Okay, F F. Okay, also inside. So this is just a quick look at how modeling could be done using Blender. Okay, so that should be good. Now the final thing is I have this mirrored mesh, right? Okay, how do you get the whole mesh, okay, as a single unit, right? To do that, you just need to select this mesh and apply the modifiers. Okay, again, if you go to the edit mode, you'll notice I have only access to, okay, this side of the mesh. Okay, right, you can actually to get the vertices on this side for editing, you need to click this particular option. Okay, so it says apply modifier to editing cage during edit mode. Okay, so now I can move any of these. Okay, so that's one more option you have. Okay, and what if you want the whole mesh as a single object, right? So to do that, you need to apply these modifiers. So let me make a copy of this. Okay, got to save as Blender file, and I'll make another copy. So quickly to make a backup of your file, F2. Okay, and then you can say 1. Okay, now I'll apply these modifiers, apply, and if you go to the edit mode, there you go. Okay, you got the whole mesh. Okay, no more modifiers. Similarly for this as well, apply and apply. Okay, so that's how you create symmetric models. Okay, along the way you also came to know about some more options of mesh modeling, right? You can just apply quick materials just to differentiate this. Okay, you'll notice both these meshes, right, sharing the same material. That's why it says 2 over here. So let me click this. Okay, and then I can change the color. Okay, again we'll learn more about the shading and rendering features and lighting features of Blender in the subsequent classes. All right, so that's about this part. In the next part, I'll be recording how to import image planes. Okay,